Hey lovely people, so going to try something a little bit different today. By all means, if you want to do this exercise in pencil crayon because you're happy with that and it's a big learning curve for you, please go ahead and do this one in pencil crayon. Now, the size of this particular image will fit quite nicely into this size Bible. If you want it smaller, you're just going to have to print it smaller, so it'll be too big for one of these. So this is the original NIV. So it'll be too big for one of those, but it will fit in that, and it will fit in this one, which is the Youth for Christ Good News Bible. So it will fit in the bigger Bibles as it's printed. Now you could take this image as a traceable and trace it through as I've shown you, and you can colour it in pencil crayon and blend it like I've shown you. But what I'm quite conscious of is a balance in this course between introducing new stuff and you thinking, oh, we're just going over the same old thing, same old. So I'm going to show you some of the materials today, but what I'm saying to you, only move on to something different if that's what you want to do. So what I've done is I've printed this onto a sticker sheet. But say you can trace yours. I've actually printed it deliberately with inkjet. Now I normally use a laser printer, but I've got a small inkjet so that I know a lot of you will be using inkjet at home, so you can see the quality onto a sticker. Your inkjet, you're not going to get such a sharp edge as you do with your with a laser, but it's absolutely fine because it's not about the artwork. And I'm going to introduce you to these lovely things today. These are called Inktense. Try and move them so you can see. There we are. They're by Derwent. Let me have a look under this camera. No, that one's not. You're not going to see it under that one either. I don't know. We'll have a look. They're Inktense. I'll put a link in the materials below for you. And they are like watercolour pencils, but they've got ink in them. So the thing about watercolours is you can go back and wet them. So that's watercolour paints or watercolour crayons, pencil crayons, colour pencils, and they'll reactivate. But these, once they've dried after you've wet them, they won't reactivate because they're ink. Now you could equally do this in something like these, and I've showed you these on the first video. These are my Arteza watercolour pencils. So you could easily do this in those, or you could even paint it in watercolours. You may want to get yourself a very simple palette. Just rummage on my drawer. These are Artist Loft ones from Hobbycraft. They're a really good starting set. They're a little bit chalky, but actually they're affordable, and I've had these a while, and I use them in a lot of my tutorials because I know a lot of people won't want to be buying expensive watercolours. You've got a nice range of colours, so you don't have to do much mixing as long as you pre-wet them with a spray. So just get a little one of those water sprays and wet them before you use them. They work really, really well. Not particularly expensive, and you can use that bit as a mixing palette like I've done. So you've got lots and lots of options, but the main option is you can stay with pencil crayons if you're becoming familiar with those. Right, I've talked long enough. So for this, if you're going to use watercolour of any kind, you're going to need some water, you're going to need a brush. You could use a water brush if you've come across these before. So these are brushes. They look a little bit like that. They come in various shapes and sizes. This one's an Arteza one. Not sure what make that one is, or but that, you know, that kind of idea. They look in different shapes and forms. And what happens is that bit's got water in. This bit you screw on, and then you can squeeze it. I don't know if you have to see on the video. Can you see? And water comes out, and you can paint it like so. But I'm just going to use a normal brush today because that's the cheapest option, and I've got a load of brushes. These are just ones that I got from the range. They're Royal and Linical. They're just dead simple, basic watercolour brushes. So there we are. So my idea for today is to kind of, this when I drew this, I'd really got the idea of a stained glass window, and the fact that in the psalm it talks about the rising of the sun and kind of a new day and everything like that, a new beginning, because with each new day we have a new beginning, etc. And Christ redeemed us. Now, although the Psalms Old Testament, it does talk about redemption, and the redemption it's talking about is all about the redemption of the Egyptian and them being saved from the Egyptians. But the redemption we've got is from Jesus Christ, because we're looking now at the Old Testament through the New Testament lens. And that's a really good phrase that I've stolen from Nicky Gumbel, because I'm a real fan of his Bible in 1 year, and I do that every day, well, most days. So I'm kind of using sunrise colours, warm colours in this. So I'm going to colour it all first using the same technique, my pencil crayons on its side, my colour pencils on its side. I've done before. I'm just going over all the black because we can kind of tidy it up later. And then I'm going to grab a yellow. I've gone for one of the brightest yellows that there is. I'm not going to colour the crossing yet, I'm going to go over that later. Sometimes underneath my desk there's kind of lumps and bumps because this desk covering's been here for a while now. And then kind of this bit here I'm going to do in a bit of blue. Now Inktense, what I find with Inktense is they're a different colour when they're dry to when you wet them, and then they dry to when you colour with them. So it's always useful to have kind of a little swatch of each one. So a swatch is where you just have you've scribbled a little bit on a card and you've got the name of whatever it is underneath, and you'd wet it, and then you can refer back to that when you're choosing your colours. I know these quite well now because I've had these. These are one of my favourite things to use wet. I'm just going to get my brush. I'm going to get a little bit of kitchen roll because I want the brush wet but I don't want it soaking, so I'm just wiped the brush off a little bit because I don't want to dilute these colours because they're so bright and vibrant. It's what I kind of want, that modern stained glass in your face colour that you get from modern stained glass. Again, just rub it off on there. As I said, you could do the same thing with your pencil crayons and use your blending pencil if you want to carry on practicing the technique you learned in session 1. This is just another tool for your toolkit, but doesn't mean you have to rush out and buy loads of stuff. It may be something that you think you might enjoy doing, using watercolour pencils or watercolour these Inktense pens, but it's up to you. It's your Bible journaling time, no one else's. Now these are just office stickers, big A4 office stickers, not very thick because not very thick ones, the thicker ones will be too bulky for your Bible, and you won't fit in 3 printer. Now I've noticed that because I printed it on inkjet, the black is kind of running a little bit, so the ink's a little bit water soluble. Oops. A bit more water soluble than I expected it to be, so I'm trying to avoid going over the black if I can. But this is quite a nice quick 20 minutes or so activity that you can do and reflect on the psalm. So what I'm going to do before I go any further is I'm going to make sure this is dry, because I don't want the different colours blending into each other. Right, so what I've noticed is there's a little bit there that's not quite blended yet. I put too much water in that. And I want to lift it off the lines really. The yellow is blocking out the lines. So I'm just wetting it and dabbing, wetting and dabbing to lift up off the lines. And I'm just going to finish drying it. So, the cross, I've picked, now this is called red oxide, but it actually comes out brown. A brown colour, it's quite an interesting colour actually. Let's do the front of the cross with. And I'm not going to paint the side of the cross, because you'll see in a minute I'm going to use what's left on my brush, dry my brush off, to pull over to the side like that. Can you see? Because if the light was behind the cross or to the side of the cross like the sunrise is, then it would be lighter. I'm kind of just using what's on my brush to blend the edges, and it gives you that look of 3D. I've just noticed that here there's a little bit of a gap, so I'm just putting a bit of a colour in there because of the way that I've kind of tried to differentiate the colours. Now I think I need a little bit more colour on this edge, so what you can do is wet your brush and then pick the colour up off the end. If you look, it picks it up. You can do this with watercolour as well, watercolour pencils. However, don't go and colour then with the pencil, because it'll be too soft till it's dried. Now I'm not worried about going over the edge because I'm going to cut all the way around this. So you can always pick extra colour up off the end of the pencil just to fill in. So really want this top one to be really, really bold. Whereas I want the side colour to be lighter from the light from the sunrise. And then I'm just going to go back and check that I've not missed anything. And now I'm going to dry it all off. Yeah, it's going to go in that one. I'll put those out of the way. And I'm going to just trim it off. Like so, and then that's going to fit in there like that. The only problem is once you trim the sticker, it takes you a while to get it unpeeled because of the way the stickers work. And I don't have nails. So I'm going to grab my scalpel and try not to stab my fingers with it. There we are. Got it. Got it, got it, got it. Some of you that have got nails will not have a problem with this. How much of the video can be taken up by Lisa trying to get a sticker off? How frustrating. Right. So, I'm going to pop it right near the edge. Stick it in. And as you can see, I've kind of fingered the edge. So I'm going to grab one of my Bible safe pens and a ruler and just make good there. And then I think I'm just going to grab my white pen. And I want the word praise to stick out, so I'm going to grab my white pen. Just go around the word praise. Like so. I'm just going to put a few details on the letters, some few little dots, just to make the font a little bit more interesting. And then something that I quite like to do is look for the actual, I should have put it on that side really, but hey ho, look for the actual piece that this has been inspired by. So this is inspired by verse 9, that psalm that picture was. So sometimes I colour them in, sometimes I don't. I wouldn't use Inktense directly into my Bible, it often goes so I'm just going to grab a watercolour pencil in a colour that maybe a green. Just shade very lightly over it. Grab my brush again. And then I think I'm just going to do a little arrow to say that it's that image over there. Watercolour that arrow in. Right, so dry it off. So there we are, finished piece. Hope you enjoyed doing that with me.